All right, hello. How's it going, Dr. Fowler? It's me, Michael Williams, and today I'm here to talk to you about our game that we've developed so far. We're calling it Second Son. And just to remind you, I'm working with Drew Savas, who is in one of your classes. Our friend from outside of school, Christopher Zach, he's working on the programming with Drew. And our other friend outside of school named Brandon Worley, he's doing all the music for us. So, and that's me doing art and Drew doing coding. And then we were working with Sterling Levine. He was doing art for us, but I guess just didn't want to work with us. So we're talking to another person right now named Trevor Purdue, but we don't know if he's going to work with us yet. But we ran into a couple problems when we had first started development. Myself, I'm very interested in story and very interested in the artwork of the game, and Sterling was also. So we had a couple ideas that we were throwing around, and all the ideas we had were very heavily based off of story, and we found that really once we got into it, the story sounded cool, but we were really lacking in understanding how the mechanics of the game were going to work and how it's going to fit together as a whole. So we kind of decided as a group to take a couple days and think about what we had been playing recently, what we had really been enjoying, and come back with those mechanics and like themes for a game and put them all together and see what we came out with. Christopher Zach is a huge fan of RTS games, strategy games. He likes dungeon crawlers and stuff like that, and I've been playing a lot of twin stick shooters and arcade style games, and more so like quick paced games, you know, a game you can sit down and take about an hour to play and then be done with it. Drew has been playing a lot of strategy games and a lot of games that require, you know, a lot of strategy between like how you're planning out what you're going to do during the game, and he had also been playing a lot of arcade games. And Brandon is a really big fan of arcade games, and once again, like something that takes not too much time to get into, but has a high skill gap. And that's one of the things that we had really found was we all wanted to make a game that you could sit down and play and get into relatively quickly. And we all wanted like a pretty fast-paced game and a game that you could sit down and play and, you know, be done in about an hour, 45 minutes, but also that there was a large skill gap. So that is kind of what led us to make this game, Second Son. What we really want to do is take the mechanics that made Faster Than Light interesting in having sort of a randomly generated path that's different every time along the planets you choose to go to, and then depending on what planets you go to, you get certain upgrades, and a game called Binding of Isaac. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it has this mechanic where each time you play through it, you unlock new things about the game. You unlock items that modify how your character shoots or how your stats, or you unlock new characters, or you unlock items that you can use during the game. And so it requires multiple playthroughs, but the game itself lasts about 45 minutes. And then the last thing was the original Star Fox game was kind of the epitome of an arcade game that really, really gripped people and was very interesting to play. So we kind of tried to emulate the play style of Star Fox, combine it with the weapon mechanics of Binding of Isaac and the strategy of Faster Than Light, and we came up with our idea called Second Son. So basically, each world has a randomly generated path. The example I'm showing you right now is just a simple endless horizon thing where we have a couple tiles for the ground, and they're randomly generated and then hidden by some fog. And we are looking into right now some different sorts of levels that we can do. We have planned to use Bezier curves, and I can show you that real quick. So we want to use these curved pieces that are defined by Bezier math so that we can have sets of pieces that we can generate from and create randomly generated levels from there. And then using the Bezier formula behind the actual piece, we can direct the movement of the camera and define the path once we generate the level. So at the beginning, when you enter the level, it will put a random assortment of these pieces together and then connect all the Bezier curves using Bezier math, and then define the path of the level based on all that. Right now, the only two working examples we have are both linear, kind of endless horizon things. As you can see from this, we're trying to go, excluding the ship. The ship is the newest model, and we haven't had time to texture it or anything. But we're really trying to go for a toon art style. And one of the things that we found interesting was it kind of gives you some leeway as the artist to hide like lower geometry things and lower vertice counts and lower poly counts, and really get some interesting detail out of them. It's been interesting so far because we've had a couple problems, especially with the toon shader. We were using the default shader at first and didn't like how the edge detection worked on it, and also how it interacted with the fog and the depth of field that we were trying to put on the camera. So we ended up making a custom shader that combined the toon art style of having the edges outlined and, you know, that sort of edge detection that it has, but we also wanted something that has shadows to show kind of variation in the land and get some more depth out of the backgrounds. As myself, I'm really looking into learning how to texture correctly so we can get some really interesting detail out of a low poly system, so that this game won't be very intensive to run. Christopher Zach has put a lot of work into getting this controller working so far. There's still some kinks we need to work out, or how the ship is moving and exactly how far we want you to be able to aim. But I'd say in general I like the aiming and how everything is looking. I think that this is fairly representative of how the final game is going to play, but I really want to spend a lot of time working on this controller to make everything smooth, because this is going to be the main mechanic and the thing that the player is doing the majority of time in the game. We have a working example of what we would want the menu to look like in the game, and this is it. We wanted to once again go for the toon art shader or art style kind of look with the shader, and we wanted to make this thing in the middle look like it was projecting out the menus. If you're actually using the menu, it would go from one panel to the next as you clicked left or right, and then you'd be able to select the panel and it would come up full screen, and you'd be able to mess with whatever options that you're selecting in the menu. Brandon Worley has done all of the songs that you're going to hear. I'm going to try to put some in the background of the video as it's playing, and give you a taste of some of those. We have been trying to look into using a project management software, and we ended up going with Asana, asana.com, and we're using that to kind of organize our tasks and give us a platform so that we can look at what each other are doing. And, you know, if I have a question for Chris and he's unavailable, I can see what his current tasks are, and it also gives us kind of a record so that we can give ourselves tasks throughout the week and see what we've done, and, you know, backlog things accordingly if we didn't get something done but we need to focus on something else. I guess I'm going to show you some concepts now of different artwork that we wanted for the enemies, and really get into what it would be like when you sat down to play this game. So what I imagine is the player sits down, goes through the main menu, they pick whatever ship they want to play, and then they pick the items that they start out with, and you'll have items that modify your stats, you'll have items that modify your how your laser shoots. For example, certain effects, like instead of shooting one laser at a time, one laser shot, I might have a charging laser that I have to hold it down, and when I let go it shoots out. I might shoot homing rockets instead of lasers. We also want there to be items that you can use. So say for example, if you were the item charged as you were killing enemies, and then you gained the ability to use it, and now you can call down an airstrike, like you can call down a giant laser that shoots down from the sky. and we wanted there to be items. I already said stats, use items, and the weapon effect items. So the general story of the game, we've tried to, like I said before, we had tried to focus on the mechanics of the game, and then instead of focusing on the story and then trying to wrap an interesting story around these mechanics. So what I had thought of was there is an alien race who has been trying to warn us that they are going to destroy the Milky Way galaxy, and they're going to nuke the black hole at the middle of the galaxy, and then they're going to make a super sun. Everything will compact into the middle of the galaxy. And if you know what a Dyson sphere is, it's basically a giant science fiction structure that you build around a sun that is an array of solar panels. And they want to build one of these around this new sun they would make, and amass a bunch of power from it. So they have been trying to send us warnings telling the humans that they were going to do this, but our technology isn't of a good enough rating that we could understand what they were trying to say. So the game would start off with two of these aliens arguing, and one of them says to the other one, you know, I'm going to go ahead and blow up the galaxy and make the sun. And the other one says, well, you know, it's not fair. They don't know. They haven't, you know, that they can't heed our warnings. And this alien actually comes out and tells us what's going on. And now, as the closest human and the only person that has access to this technology to fly a ship to try and stop them, you're kind of on the frontier, and you're trying to get to these aliens before they can do this. So I really wanted to carry that motif through the design of the enemies for the first level. As you can see, they all have this kind of sphere in the middle, and that is representative of the Dyson sphere. And my first thought was that these enemies would be AI controlled, and it would be on an Earth-style planet, so they would be coming to try and stop us. The other alien had realized that the good alien had done this, and so they sent out these AI-controlled bots to come and stop us. And yeah, and so I would play through the first level, and the first level would be the same design motif every time, but then after that, I would be at the first level, and I would have a choice of 3 other planets that I could go to. Each planet would be a certain type, for example, a red planet, a green planet, or a blue planet, and each color type of planet would be representative of different kinds of upgrades. For example, if I went to the red planet, I know I would have to fight one of 3 bosses that appear on the red planet, but I know that I would get, say, an aggressive item, an item that upped my attack stat or upped my fire rate, or gave me a laser that did more damage or shot in a different way so that I could do more damage. Or I could go to the blue planet and fight a different set of bosses, and the blue planets would be a totally different design, and I would get a defensive upgrade, one that increased the maximum capacity of my shield, or something that increased my health, or something that prevented me from taking damage in some way. Or I could go to the green planet, and the green planets would always provide me with a use item, and there I would have to fight a different set of bosses. So as I would progress through the game, you would start off at the Earth-style planet, and you would go through around 4 to 6 more planets, each that took around 10 minutes to complete. And then you would go to the last planet, where you would fight one of 3 final bosses. These bosses would be known at the beginning of the game, and so the player would understand, okay, if I'm fighting that boss, there's a strategy that I need to go through these planets to build items so that I can more effectively fight that boss, because the mechanics of each boss fight would be different. So that would change the path that they would take through the system. And then depending on what the player did and where they went and what bosses they end up fighting, they would unlock items for the next time they played through. And so the next time they played through, they could pick different items from the beginning menu screen, and these items would now be available from the planets that they would defeat. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's about all we have so far. Our future plans are we're beginning to kind of flesh out the first boss fight. As I had mentioned, we really want to spend a lot of time working on this controller and getting it working as smoothly as possible. There's still some kinks we need to work out, and we really need to figure out for the planets that are a infinite horizon like this, we need to find a better way to hide the spawning of the clouds and the ground plane in the back. For this example, we have a very bright blue sky and a white fog hiding the spawning, so it kind of shows you where the horizon is, and that's something we really need to work on, blending in with the background. This one is more of an example with the actual skybox, where you can see the white of the horizon matches with the white of a skybox, and this looks a little more natural, but it still kind of looks weird to me. So there's definitely some stuff we need to figure out with the art style, and as the one of the artists, I really need to figure out what I want to do with the texturing to really make the toon style something interesting and different, and something that looks really unique and catches people's attention. We have the example of the menu, and we really need to get the flow of the menus working so that we can have somebody watch the intro and then go through the menu and then select their ship and then spit out into the game. I don't think that's necessarily important, but I think it gives us a better working example to show to people. And we need to start getting enemies to spawn. Also, I need to start working on the models for the Bezier curves so that we can get the generation system working and make sure that that looks solid and make sure that that works. I think that's a really interesting way to add some variation in the levels. That's the way we had originally planned to do it, and we knew that we were going to do some levels with the infinite horizon, and since that was easier to get working, those ended up being the first examples that we had gotten working. Any feedback from you is obviously very appreciated. I really wanted to know what you thought of, for example, using a project management software, and if there was something that you would recommend to us. I would like some feedback on the general concept of the game and really understanding if these mechanics sound like something that would be interesting. I think it's a little too early to really talk about the art style of the game. I think in the intro video I showed, there's some interesting things that have been carried over into this menu, but I think we really need to work on fine-tuning the art style of the levels and making sure that it's a congruent thing throughout the game. Thank you for watching my video, and I hope we hear from you soon.